DA AfriForum take legal action to have MKP's Jlophe removed from JSC. The Democratic Alliance DA and civil rights organization AfriForum have both filed urgent applications with the Constitutional Court in a bid to have former Judge President of Western Cape High Court Dr. Jlophe removed from the Judicial Service Commission (JSC). The impeached Hlophe was officially elected to represent the National Assembly on the JSC earlier this month. He was nominated during a sitting of the House in Cape Town. The House passed a motion after his party, uMkhonto weSizwe MKP, nominated him to be part of the body. This was 5 months after he was impeached for gross misconduct by the same parliament which voted for him to serve in the JSC. In a statement, the DA said while they accept that it was the prerogative of political parties to nominate persons to serve on the JSC, Hlophe was not allowed to serve on the body that found him guilty. In their court application, the DA said they seek to urgently interdict Hlophe from taking up a seat in the JSC, pending the outcome of the second part where they seek to review and set aside the National Assembly's decision to put him there as one of their representatives. It would be irrational for the National Assembly to have the same person who has been impeached representing it on the JSC, which is the body responsible for nominating judges to appointment and for declining judges, the party said. AfriForum requested the Concord in its court applications to declare that Hlophe's appointment irrational, unlawful and in conflict with the NA's constitutional duty. According to Carly Creel, CEO of AfriForum, it was unthinkable that aspiring judges' ethics, integrity and stability to serve as a judge should henceforth be assessed by Hlophe as a member of the JSC. This, while Hlophe himself was earlier found unfit to serve as a judge by the JSC due to his dishonest and gross misconduct relating to his interference in constitutional court matters involving former President Jacob Zuma. It is essential that AfriForum fights Hlophe's appointment to the highest court because his presence in the JSC seriously undermines the credibility and independence of the judiciary, while it also undermines the rule of the law, Creel said. Hlophe will join the likes of EFF leader Julius Malema, Action SA National Assembly leader Ethel Hlophe, the ANC's Molapi Lakwenyane, and Fasiha Hassan and the DA's MP Glynis Breitenbach in overseeing judicial conduct. Meanwhile, DA files urgent applications to interdict Hlophe's JSC seat. Dr. Jlophe's designation as member of the Judicial Services Commission (JSC) continues to be a bone of contention, with the DA now launching an urgent interdict in the Western Cape High Court against the uMkhonto weSizwe MKP parliamentary leader's assignation for the JSC. The DA has been one of several political parties that have objected to Hlophe's appointment to the JSC, while the ANC and EFF were among those who voted in favor of his nomination and appointment. The commission is expected to sit in October to interview and make recommendations to President Cyril Ramaphosa on who to appoint. The DA's application comes in two parts, with part A seeking an urgent interdict against Hlophe from taking up the position in the JSC, while part B is a review application seeking to set aside the decision of the National Assembly to designate Hlophe as a representative at the JSC. In the application, the DA argues that Hlophe's participation in the JSC would render any recommendation it makes to the President as unlawful and undermine the integrity of the body. In essence, the DA therefore seeks to prevent Hlophe from serving on the JSC until the legality of his election to the commission is determined by the court. The DEA concluded that the MK party had the opportunity to fill a different indicate other than Hlophe, whose image does not allow him to be part of the same institution that impeached him. This application, dated July 19th, cites Hlophe as the first respondent, the Speaker of the second, the JSC as the third, the MKP as the fourth, all of those parties represent in the National Assembly as fifth respondents. The DA said in February this year, the National Assembly resolved to remove Dr. Hlophe from his position as a judge. It reached that conclusion based on the finding of the JSC that Dr. Hlophe was guilty of gross misconduct for seeking to influence the outcome of a case concerning former President Jacob Zuma. It accuses the National Assembly to wrongly endorsing the nomination of Hlophe, saying the National Assembly wrongly seems to have taken a view that it had no choice but to accept MK Party's nomination of Dr. Hlophe. It erred. It was for the National Assembly to decide, after considering nominations from the relevant political parties, whom to designate. The only constitutional limitation is that 3 of the designated MPs must belong to opposition parties. The DA said the relief in Part A of the application was urgent as JSC is set to sit in October. The DEA application follows an application by AfriForum is baseless, vexatious, and irrational, and is a desperate attempt to grow the spanner in the grinding wheels of justice and more particularly neoliberal quarters persecution of animosity and pure jealousy in the people of Dr. John Hlophe. The AfriForum mandate from its masters is to destabilize and weaken the momentum of the MK party in parliament as the official opposition party. Meanwhile, MKPYL slams AfriForum's legal challenge on Hlophe as baseless. The uMkhonto weSizwe Party Youth League MKPYL has slammed the application by AfriForum seeking direct access to the Constitutional Court on an urgent basis, calling it baseless. This comes after an impeached judge of the Western Cape High Court, John Hlophe, was electing to serve on the National Assembly Judicial Service Commission, JSC, earlier this month. Judge Hlophe was impeached for the Judicial Conduct Tribunal found him guilty of attempting to weigh the outcome of former President Jacob Zuma's corruption trial back in 2008. It was the JSC that found him guilty of gross misconduct in August 2021 and recommended impeachment, which took place in Parliament last year. AfriForum, on the other hand, wants Hlophe removed from the JSC after his election to the legal body of the House and Assembly recently. According to MKPYL spokesperson uMkhonto, it is noteworthy to mention that the National Assembly is desiring Hlophe to the JSC, acting within its rules and constitutional mandate, and the contention that such an appointment was irrational, unlawful, unreasonable, invalid, and thus inconsistent with the Constitution, cannot be said to be holding any water in the open and the democratic society. We note in that such an application by AfriForum is baseless, vexatious, and irritational, and is a desperate attempt to throw the spinner in the grinding wheel of justice, and other particularly neo-liberal quartet perpetuation is of animosity and pure jealousy in the persons of Dr. Hlophe. The AfriForum mandate from its masters is to destabilize and weaken the momentum of the MK party in Parliament as the official opposition party, said Mkhonto. Moreover, Mkhabela said the only reasonable interference to be done and consistent with the founding affidavit by AfriForum through Kelly Creel is the one seeking and persuading the Constitutional Court to dictate to the National Assembly how to exercise its own constitutional mandate in terms of Section Sub 3 and Section Sub 4, and thus the National Assembly could not be said to have acted in bad failure in the appointment of Hlophe. The contention of AfriForum in this application is that the National Assembly failed to provide mechanisms and made rules to contain oversight over the JSC in terms of Section 55, subsection 2, subsection B and subsection 2 of the Constitution, and thus constituting a violation of his section is invalid, could never be attributed to Hlophe nor the MKP, said Mkhabela. Parliament adopted the resolution confirming the JSC findings in terms of Section 77 of the Constitution of gross misconduct against Hlophe. The President Cyril Ramaphosa, acting on the instructions from the neo-colonial masters, confirms Patient's designation and thus endorsed the impeachment of Hlophe. It said, AfriForum was millennious in its application to the Apex Court, and clearly this is an abuse of the Court, as their matter cannot be said to be urgent and rationally founded, said Mkhabela. As the MKPYL, we submit that the AfriForum has got nothing to do with how the JSC conducts its own day-to-day basis and could never be the voice of the uninspiring judges who are to be interviewed for the judicial office by the JSC, including Hlophe. It is interesting that note that AfriForum refers its application to the previous decisive cases where findings were made against the JSC in how it conducts the businesses, Mkhabela said. And that's it from Injibs Network. Stay tuned to our celebrity and gossip news.